What's up, everybody? It's June the 16th. It is a Tuesday. I hope you're all doing well. It is the grand year of 2015, although, like I say in my other videos, I don't know what year you'll actually see this or date or whatever. It may take quite a bit of time for this to get out, if it ever does, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is going to be part 2 of my soft kill series, which I just started making. I've already made a part 1 of it called aerosol, which is pretty awesome. You should go check it out. It talks about the history of it, the fact that it's still being used, even though the FDA says it's not. But this part 2 is one of my favorite ones. It's one of the subjects that I was first skeptical about, basically. One of the ones that even when I was starting to awaken into some of the hidden truths and hidden stuff that's going on subversively, you know, through the government and whatnot, I considered this theory to have no validity whatsoever because I was a programmed sheeple, as we all are at some point in our life, and maybe some of you still are. This is going to be a challenge to those of you people who don't believe in chemtrails. This will be Soft Kill Part 2, Chemtrails. Now, before you turn me off, because I know 50% of you right now are like, ooh, chemtrail, blah, 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 blah. Although maybe you wouldn't have clicked my video if that was the case, but I don't know. I think it's important you watch my video because one thing if I've noticed is that still to this day, probably 50% of people or more not only are not aware of chemtrails, but if you are aware of chemtrails, you've dismissed them because you've drinking the Kool-Aid of the mainstream media and some of the other, you know, government institutions and media outlets and whatnot. However, in this video, I'm actually going to prove that theory wrong, that they're non-existent. I'm going to prove that the idea and this new definition for persistent chemtrails is completely bullshit. And I'm going to tell you about why this is a soft kill weapon, basically, and why it's going to lead to something that's actually going to turn into more of a hard kill weapon. So if you're skeptical, please watch anyway. If there's one thing I learned, there's a lot of things I'm skeptical of, like the whole flat earth theory. There's a whole movement on YouTube right now about people who believe, once again, that the earth is flat. Yes, we have went back in time, I don't know, what is it, 400 or 500 years, or maybe even longer now, and are back to flat earth again. You know, the difference between, even though I kind of like chemtrails assumed it was completely bogus and bullshit, I still went and listened to the people who are behind this theory, looked at their analysis. I've seen, you know, what the supposed moon hologram is and heard all the theories and everything else, and I formulated my own opinion on it based on doing research and not completely dismissing it. In fact, if you just dismiss me right now before I present this evidence to you and these theories to you, then you can count yourself amongst the sheeple in which I am talking. If you're wondering where the clever term sheeple came from, I got it from William Cooper, who he is also someone you should definitely check out if you haven't already. He's pretty much my mentor and my hero, even though, you know, people have an often romanticized view of what a hero is and should be. He's definitely mine, and everyone has their own. But with that being said, my close friends who probably already know this stuff, I'd like you guys to watch it too, just because I like making videos for all my friends. However, this is directly for you sheeple because, who knows how many percent of you now, 60, maybe 70% of you at this exact moment are going, those are just contrails. Those are condensation trails that you're seeing in the sky. There's no such thing as chemtrails, okay? When you try to Google information about chemtrails, if you don't word your search properly, and even if you do, you're going to come across articles that basically say that it's an urban myth, that it's been debunked, they're condensation trails that are created by passenger airplanes, right, in the atmosphere. And perhaps you guys don't really know the definition of con. Basically, con is an abbreviated version of the word condensation, which is the word they're talking about. Much like when you're outside, it's cold outside, you're breathing, and condensation comes out of your mouth, you know, vapor, that kind of vapor that happens. See, you know, at the high atmosphere where the temperature is colder, they want us to believe that the heat of the engines is creating condensation, which creates ice crystals and yada, yada, do. One thing you'll notice about condensation is that when you breathe, my question to you is, does it linger around your head like a billowy cloud of smoke and then gradually fall to the ground over the course of many hours? And I'm sure the answer to that question for you is no, because if the answer to that question is yes, I would love for you to reply to this video and show me an instance of this occurring. I would find that to be so fascinating. But let's go ahead and get into it, okay? Now, the debunkers are going to say, you know, those grid patterns you're seeing are flight patterns. They're going to say that the reason why you can see them more in some states than others, basically, is because those are the flight paths that, you know, regular airline travels. What the
but she is qualified to enjoy a spoonable chocolate cookie core surrounded by mocha and caramel ice creams.
What the fuck is you?
And she's a pro at confidential data management.
Hold
New
on
Ben & Jerry's
quick.
cookie cores. Cookies like never before.
Suck my balls with your cookies. What the fuck was that? I'm not starting this video over because I started it off so well, don't you think, guys? Sorry if I have a little bit of a cough, too. It's probably from the fucking chemtrails that they've been spraying nonstop in California. But let's start off by showing you some images of chemtrails. Maybe you've never even heard of this phenomenon before. So I'm going to show you some images of what chemtrails look like. Okay? So here's an image right here. Here you can see very long aerosol trails. You know, and there's different names for this too. You know, some people call it geoengineering. Some people call it aerosol spraying. I like to call it chemtrails. You know why? Because that's what they fucking try to, you know, that's the term that's used to try to debunk people who try to disclose this information about it. However, you know, the more scientific term would be geoengineering or aerosol spraying, but I don't care. I'm going to say chemtrails anyway, so get over it. Here is a plane spraying. Now, this could or could not be, may or may not be chemtrails, actually. This could very well be con. It's hard to tell because here you do have a plane at high altitude spraying plumes, and they do appear to be appearing behind the engines. So that one maybe not. However, here is a perfect illustration of chemtrails. And so for those of you super scientific, intelligent people who like to talk shit about conspiracy theorists who say that planes are just going along their normal flight paths and we're seeing, you know, contrails in the sky, what kind of game of fucking Frogger do you think that they have us playing here? Do you really want me to believe that they play, you know, that these planes travel across these X lines like this intentionally and regular commercial air travel? Is that really what you want me to believe? That, you know, just airplanes are playing fucking Frogger all day? I know once they get, you know, down to the airport that you have the flight controllers down there and they do some pretty awesome work in trying to, you know, navigate these planes down in a timely fashion, you know, without them waiting in the sky too long. We all know that. But to assume that this is just regular flight pattern contrail activity already in and of itself is bullshit. And I'll tell you why. Because there's no way if these instances happened, so, I mean, condensation dissipates fairly fast, okay? But yet here you see lingering ones. In fact, this is a perfect illustration of what a chemtrail is all about here. You're seeing the plume that starts off thin, skinny, something like this one right here. And then this is one that would have been laid down much earlier, where you're seeing the fallout from it. You see that fallout coming down, guys? Yeah, that's going down towards us, down towards the earth. It's not dissipating. It's spreading out. Not dissipating, spreading out. And then you can see in the distance nothing but a white haze in the sky. These are chemtrails. This is a perfect illustration. If you go outside and this is what you see, you are witnessing chemtrail spraying activity. And there's so many more photos like this. Here we have an X pattern. Once again, lines intersecting right along each other like, I mean, come on, like, I know that, as I show you these images, these aren't conclusive enough images for you to believe that chemtrails exist. I'm so well aware of that because you're so fucking smart, right? You know everything. And, like I say, I don't mean to be insulting because, I need you to stick around long enough for me to prove you wrong, which is going to be fucking awesome, okay? But these, like I say, for people who don't know what chemtrails look like, or, whatever, this is chemtrails. These are chemtrails, okay? So when you go outside and see this, you see it wafting down, creating a white sky, okay? Chemtrails, okay? So now we've gotten past that part. Now, as I go through this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the chemicals and toxic heavy metals and everything else, biological warfare that's dumped in different ones of these chemtrails. What's crazier is, there's a whole bunch of different explanations for them. For those of you who think they don't exist, you're so fucking wrong. It hurts me. It literally hurts my brain because not only is it admitted, it's admitted by multiple sources and given different reasons to these different sources so people won't put together what it actually is. But in reality, there's a multitude of reasons why they spray these chemtrails, okay? But why beat around the bush anymore? Let's get to the real meat and potatoes because I want to show you this so you'll listen to me about the other facts that I'm going to be citing in regards to this phenomenon, okay? And here we go, okay? This is YouTube. I'm sure you're all familiar with it because you're watching me on YouTube right now. Here it is. The name of the video is NASA admits chemtrails on July 10th, 2013. This is a recorded phone conversation with an official from NASA, okay? And I'm going to really enjoy showing this to you guys. This video was posted by Boostin R31, and I'm not really sure if Boostin R31 is the original person who posted this video. I really wish I did know for sure, so that way I could give credit to the original person who did this research, and I hope that's who it is. However, it may not be. I hope whoever you are, you're not mad that I'm streaming this video right now. I'm sure that you're in the same boat as me. You're trying to disseminate this information to people who just don't seem to fucking get it, okay? But let's go ahead and cut to the chase. I'm sure you're done listening to me talk. Let's listen to someone, who's more qualified to talk, right? Because I'm an idiot. So let's listen to a scientist from NASA.
When I called NASA yesterday and I spoke with someone in your Washington, D.C. office, I was told that he's scared to death. He's going to denounce his citizenship and go back to the Philippines. Okay. That's what I was told by NASA yesterday when I called.
Okay, and
directly from your office.
That conversation with their knowledge?
I'm sorry?
Did you record that conversation with their knowledge?
Who gives a fuck?
Are you recording my conversation with that knowledge, sir?
No.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm not recording any conversation.
You're not recording any conversation with my knowledge, and NASA isn't either, and you can't get through it anyway. If you want to leave a message, it rings and rings and then hangs up on you. Same with Wallop Island. So I would love to leave a message there. Could you give me a direct answer? Because it says you're the scientist here on the NASA website.
Yeah, I'm involved in the project, but...
You are a scientist, so then and you know that this is experimental, you've never done.
So this is a scientist involved with this experiment, basically, with these operations, as just admitted, who works for NASA, okay? NASA.
Done it before?
No, it's been done in the 1970s. It's been done recently in the 1990s and 2000s.
Oh, that's not what it said on this article here.
It hasn't been done since 1970, the lithium release in the daytime.
Why would it be done now then, sir? That's scary.
Detailed information. If you could please send your comments by email.
Okay, will you respond to my email if I send them?
Happy to answer them, yes.
You will. Okay, what was your email, sir?
Douglas.e.Rowland, D-O-U-G-L-A-S.
Douglas. I'm sorry?
E.
Dot
Rowland, R-O-W-L-A-N-D.
So there you go. Now you have his email address. Anyone who has a problem with the information that I'm addressing here could feel free to email this very same person, and he would be happy to answer your questions about how they're spraying chemtrails.
At
So.gov.
I'm sorry?
NASA.gov.
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 Okay. Well, I will be expecting an email back from you then, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very important. We communicate what we're doing to the public. We're very interested in making sure everyone knows what we're doing. We're not, we're civilian space agency.
It's very important that we inform people what we're doing to the public, not for the public.
Be dedicated to science and research and so on. So we're very, very keen to make sure that the taxpayers know what we're doing and everything. So,
well, you know, when the article came out in the major newspapers, including the Huffington Post, there was no mention of lithium. Not one. Not one mention of lithium. Until I heard the recording of the actual, I listened to it. I listened to the rockets go off. I had no idea there was going to be a lithium dispersed until I heard payload lithium dispersed.
right, there was lithium dispersed, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. I think you might be under some misconceptions about what we're doing, but I'm happy to tell you any details that you need.
Well, I know that it says in your article that you're doing it for communications.
Okay, I'm happy to talk to you more about it. There are many reasons we're doing it.
Okay.
We don't understand how the wind in the upper atmosphere moves.
Mm-hmm.
In these chemtrails, there's different kinds of chemtrails, as you probably know.
So there's many reasons why we're doing it. We're using it for the winds. So here he goes saying there's multiple reasons why we use these, but then cites one instance. And he's going to proceed on to say how they use it in order to chart the way that the wind blows. As if we don't have rudimentary, you could stick a fucking, your finger in the air and find out which way the wind blows. But let's hear his convoluted bullshit answer. And then I'll get into some other explanations for this.
Different trails at night we use and different trails during the day. The wind blows them around. They glow either on their own or from scattered sunlight. We take pictures and we can see how the wind trail moves around. I use that to infer what the wind is. Just like if you were taking a picture of an airplane contrail, you can use that to see how the wind was blowing up at those altitudes. This is much higher altitude, so we use these chemical trails.
And what?
So you see how also he's just differentiated the difference between a chemtrail and a contrail? Skeptics.
What is the purpose of knowing what the wind's going to do in the ionosphere?
The purpose is the ionosphere is really to understand our planet. It's very fundamental science. We're trying to understand every day. We know there's electric currents that flow over the head. They're just naturally there. They've been there for ever since the Earth had an atmosphere and a magnetic field. And the wind is driven by the sun. The sun heats the atmosphere. The wind blows, and every day that wind drives an electric current. And we're trying to understand what causes that. Essentially, how does it work in detail? And also importantly, when the sun becomes active with lots of sunspots and lots of magnetic activity, that changes the wind pattern and changes electric currents. So we want to understand both what it is on a regular day when there's no solar activity, and then what it is when there's a lot of solar activity.
Is there some other kind of a way that you can use it without dispersing the lithium?
We're researching other ways. The lithium is actually harmless to the environment, and we could show you more about that. But it is tricky to use because it's very faint. You can't see it with your naked eye. You have to, have special cameras to see it and so on. So we don't like to use it for that reason. It's hard. In other words, it's a hard measurement to make. We're researching other ways to put sensors directly on the rocket to measure the wind, and those are ongoing. We're trying to develop those now. In fact, one of the purposes of this mission was to do that.
Okay. Well, you've explained it to me then. I don't agree with it, but I appreciate you explaining it to me.
Mel, too, if you have detailed questions, anything you want.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna research a little more, and I will email you. And I appreciate you taking the time out to speak to me today, sir.
Your call. It's not often we get to hear from members of the public and people who are really interested and concerned with what we're doing. I really appreciate your time.
I wish more people would call. I really do. I've called my senators. I've called my governor.
Me
You
too.
can't get through to anyone, sir. You can't get through to anybody.
No.
Yeah.
I go to my city council. I live in rural North Carolina. They don't care. They laugh you out of there. There's no other recourse for us, sir, unless to talk to people directly and find out what is going on, because we're paying for it.
Well, I don't know how far you are from Wild's Flight Facility. Is that easy? Is that drivable from where you are?
Where is it, sir? I don't know where it is.
It's north of Norfolk, Virginia. It's on the eastern shore of Virginia.
Now he wants to navigate her to a fucking facility, more or less, probably to scare the living day fuck out of her or whatever. Who knows, you know what I mean? But do I really need to show more of this video to you guys? What the fuck do you have to say now? Okay? Like, seriously, what do you got to say now? Okay? I would like to hear some video responses about how you plan on debunking this admission from this NASA scientist admitting the fact that they're spraying chemtrails, okay? So, do you guys want more evidence? I could give it to you, but I don't need to. But if you did a little bit of research, which hopefully this has inspired you to do some now, you're going to find out that NASA isn't the only one who's admitted chemtrails recently and over the years. This has been a well-known fact, all but secret, although many people have come out on purpose and on accident and disclosed the fact that there is an aerosol agenda, okay, that geoengineering is occurring. So I'm actually going to move forward on that. I'm going to let you follow the magical breadcrumb trail that's going to lead you to your self-enlightenment of realizing that people are waging soft kill weapons on you, okay? I'm going to let you go ahead and do that yourself. Nothing I could show. I mean, I could show you news anchors and all sorts of different people. Shit, I could even show you a clip of Al Gore admitting the existence of chemtrails. But here's the thing, you know what I mean? When you're involved with the military, you're involved with NASA and any of these other programs, whether they be, most of them are secret programs, but when you're involved with them, everything's on a need-to-know basis, and everyone's been giving a different explanation of what these things basically are and what they're meant for, okay? However, many of the chemicals that are found in the soil samples and the water samples under the areas in which this chemtrail spraying occurs are all very uniform. You're going to find the same compounds. However, occasionally they do get crazy and spray some even more insane stuff, okay? But here's some of the explanations for chemtrails. Now, when I first started getting to this, like I said, I was very much skeptical. I did not believe in it. I'd see chemtrail videos on YouTube as I was looking up 9/11 videos, and I'd click right past them going, oh, these fucking idiots, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure what inspired me to start looking up at them. I think it was because there was this operation that happened in Salinas many years ago before I moved there that was called LBAM, and it was like this idea that the light brown apple moth was taken over and it was going to kill all the agriculture in the Central Valley. So their solution in order to fix this problem was to disperse a pheromone, as they called it, which it wasn't a pheromone. In fact, they would not even disclose a full list of all the active and inactive ingredients that was in this spray. And as we did more and more research on this supposed spraying they wanted to do to eradicate the light brown apple moth, we find that this stuff was not perfect. It was not tested properly. There was no research done on it. There was no environmental impact report on it. And yet they deemed it perfectly safe to spray over all the people in the Central Valley. If that didn't make things worse, now me and my ex-wife, Kathy, we went and protested this thing. We felt like, at first we went to the town hall meetings in case, you know, you didn't know what those are. Those are meetings where they give you the illusion that you have a say and that perhaps your voice means something when it don't, when they've already made the fucking decision to do exactly what they're going to do in the first place. They just give you the illusion that you have a say in it, right? This kind of pissed us off because, you know, we came out there, we saw a complete lack of support in a movement to question the government officials associated with trying to make this disbursement over the Central Valley, feeling it was unsafe, being that it was untested. As it turns out, as I start doing research and a documentary on that information, which is no longer available, it was on my old YouTube channel, which has since been erased, I basically show, like, if that was the case and they're trying to eradicate the light brown apple moth over the crops, then they would have sprayed and dispersed this pheromone, as they called it, which confuses their sexual patterns, basically causing them all to die. They would have sprayed it over all the crops, which the Central Valley is completely covered in fields of all different kinds, whether it be strawberries and artichokes. It's the salad bowl of the world, as they call it, or the salad bowl of the United States, to definitely be sure. More agriculture is grown there of that sort than anywhere else. But I had video. I was one of the only people, in fact, I think I am the only person who is brave enough to stand out when they were spraying. And guess where they were spraying, guys? They weren't spraying over the fields. They were spraying over the apartment complexes, over the shopping malls, over the city, and they made swoop after swoop after swoop after swoop. And these weren't high-flying aircraft like you'd see the chemtrails doing. These were very low-flying and making very, very low-altitude spraying maneuvers, basically, over all the residents of Salinas, California. I would not be surprised if right now there is just an enormous number of people having all sorts of different medical maladies which are directly related to it, whether it be sterility, whether it be respiratory disease, what have you. Basically, the government once again gets away with testing on people. And you say, well, the government, it's illegal for them to test on people and yada yada do, but it's not. It's actually, they don't give a fuck, okay? But perhaps that's what got me to finally start looking up at the sky. And what I found living there in Salinas is not far off from Salinas, there's an Air Force base that you can actually see these chemtrail planes coming from. This is one, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the name of the Air Force base is now, but you could plainly see that they're originating from this Air Force base. Not that they all originate from there, but for this area, we could see, you know, home base in which these chemtrail planes were being deployed and releasing chemtrails basically on the public. Well, one day, as I'm out there filming these chemtrails, it's blowing my mind, you know, now I'm awake, now I realize, holy shit, these guys do just fucking spray us, what the fuck? And I started doing a little bit of research on, like, the definition of condensation and started just kind of really paying attention, you know, to the fact that these things would persist for an entire day. And what would normally be a perfectly clear day would turn into a big, giant white haze, basically. But one day, before I opened my store, I was taking some video, and one of my customers had noticed I was taking a video of the chemtrails. I go in, open my Verizon store, and go in to start selling the guy a phone. And he goes, hey man, I saw you out there filming. Where were you out there filming? And I was like, I was out there filming the chemtrails. I can see the airplanes spraying, you know, chemicals out of the planes up there. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I was in the military. I was in the Air Force, blah, blah. He said, what they're actually spraying out of there is chaff. I was like, chaff, huh? What do you mean chaff? And he goes, well, basically we spray this, you know, these different kinds of metals up into the atmosphere, basically, mostly aluminum and some other things. And what it does is, we've been told it disrupts the enemy's radar. So if Russia's trying to use their radar on us or spy on us via radar or whatever, that's the explanation this guy had been given and was thusly given to me, is that it basically creates interference with their spying tools, basically. So that's one explanation. Sorry it took me so long to get into explanation number one, but it ties into how I got into all this. But there is a multitude of explanations for this. You will see an explanation from Al Gore, which states that they're spraying chemtrails up there to reflect the sunlight back up because we've done such devastational damage to the atmosphere due to, you know, fucking greenhouse gases and the global warming thing, that now they need to spray layers of these chemicals in the atmosphere in order to shine the light back into space to protect us from global warming, okay? There's theory number two. Theory number three. There's a theory out there, no shit, that the government is secretly testing extraterrestrial or just, you know, like weapons, you know, UFOs, secret technology, and they darken out the sky so they can do their maneuvers without people being able to see these vehicles in high altitudes with the naked eye. That's number three. Number four, they use them basically up in the atmosphere so that if there's cloaked UFOs or cloaked unidentified flying objects, either from extraterrestrials or just terrestrials, like our enemies in general. We can see the movement in the cloud formation, in the chemtrail formation of the direction they go, whether or not they're cloaked, basically. There's so many different reasons for chemtrails that are given. Like literally, there is a ton of them. Here you have NASA saying, well, we're actually doing it because we're testing, the way that the air works in the ionosphere and that the way that solar flares hit and the electrical conductivity. And that leads to one of the most commonly accepted theories is that our government long ago, theoretically using Nikola Tesla's missing research, basically, has found a way to superheat and conduct energy through the ionosphere, okay? And when they put these metal particles into the atmosphere, it makes them more conductive, which gives them the unique opportunity to manipulate the weather. And it doesn't stop there. HAARP is also said to have the ability to change the conductivity of people's minds, basically, able to make them change personality, basically, able to make people down or make people feel upset. Not surprisingly, probably able to actually kill people, to be used as a weather weapon by superheating the atmosphere and being able to control the jet stream, basically. You can create all kinds of weather weaponry, which we can get into more later as well. And which is kind of what got me into deciding to make this video second, because in one way it is relevant to something that's happening right now. Okay? Now, that thing that's happening right now, I'll go ahead and tell you guys another story, okay? It's June. And over the course of the last 2 weeks in June, in California, I have seen 2 lightning storms, okay? 2 lightning storms with rain. Now, I've lived in California my whole fucking life. I've seen some interesting things. One time in Prunedale, which you never even see snow, I saw snow there. I've seen some interesting weather patterns, massive lightning storms. I've seen falling, meteor showers that were so crazy, like they're literally falling less than 1%, just boom, 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 all night long. I've seen some crazy shit. Something I've never seen is rain in June. It's just something that doesn't happen. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, I have noticed that a day before these rain storms come in, basically, which are more lightning storms with light precipitation, I have noticed that prior to these occurrences happening, the day before both times, that there was increased activity in the sky of planes spraying chemtrails. Now, that's going to lead you to one of 2 destinations, okay? Destination A, the government knows that California is in the biggest drought ever. We're in severe drought, and they're doing all they can to seed clouds to bring down moisture to help protect us from said drought, right? And then if that was, truly what's happening, then they should just give up now, because they let down hardly any drizzle at all when these storms came in. It was just like fucking lightning with a little bit of light drizzle and passed and went or whatever. Option number 2 is they're actually using these chemtrails to suck the moisture out of the fucking atmosphere and manipulate weather patterns to create an artificial drought in California. Okay? And you might ask, well, why in the hell would they do that? Well, as you probably know if you're educated, California has the 8th largest economy in the entire world. Just the state of California, not the U.S., the state of California has the 8th largest economy in the entire world. I mean, we're talking like country economies. Like if you take, the United States and California, like fucking literally almost make as much money. That's basically what I'm trying to explain to you here. 8th largest economy, okay? A lot of that has to do with a variety of reasons. One of them being the movie industry, which is, big. This is our big hypno-fest, Hollywood, basically. The same wood they use to make a magic wand, basically. Media basically is, synonymous with the idea of witchery or brainwashing, you know what I mean? But that's a whole nother course study you'll have to get yourself into. But one thing I noticed about this, and like I said, is why the fuck is there rain in June? And it occurred to me that the Earth, like any living organism, is trying to protect itself. The planet, the environment, basically knows we're in a severe drought. It's trying to fix itself. It's like, the conditions, even though wouldn't normally happen, are trying to create rain in June in order to save itself from this severe fucking drought. And the government is so gung-ho, and NASA and everyone else is so gung-ho about keeping this drought going that they're actually, in my opinion, spraying those fucking chemtrails to stop those weather fronts from coming in and giving us the much needed rain that we deserve, okay? Now you ask, well, what does that mean for us? Well, I'll tell you what it means, especially for us who live in California. Most of you probably live in other states, which may be affected. Many of you won't be affected. I know if you live in the Midwest possibly, or you live on the East Coast, this is basically the exact opposite of your problem. They're steering our fucking moisture your way. So while you're having torrential fucking floods and record rainfall, record cold, record snowfall, all this other bullshit, we are in severe drought. They're talking about water rationing. They're talking about all sorts of different shit. And, the ramifications of this activity on us as, a country is very important to all of you, whether or not you live in California, because as I said, California is the salad bowl of the United States. If we don't get water, we can't water the crops, right? We can't water the crops. We got no food, okay? The only food you're going to get is genetically modified corn, and good luck for that. That'll be soft kill number 3 probably, trust me. We'll get all fucking into that. So there you go. When you're now got a soft kill weapon, which I haven't discussed how it's soft kill yet, but I'm sure you're starting to see a pattern here. That's going to turn into a hard kill weapon. Hard kill is when we run out of food and we run out of water. The 2 necessities we need to live, basically. And one of 2 things can happen here. Either A, they're going to push through some fucking draconian, legislation, environment legislation, which basically takes away all of people's property rights and their right to collect water. And we're already seeing this across the United States, actually more and more frequently. I've heard stories of people who've been literally cited, arrested, and ticketed for collecting their own rainwater by saying they're diverting natural, water sources by collecting rainwater. They're making that an actual crime. So in my opinion, this drought is very much being engineered for a cause to push this global agenda for fucking, if you talk to Alex Jones, he thinks they're going to initiate carbon tax, carbon credit. Everybody's made of carbon, so everyone has to pay the tax. It's a big money-making venture, da-da-da-da-do, okay? But, there's a whole bunch of different variables that play into this. A, we have the obvious population control agenda going on. You've got the smartest minds in the world and the elites meeting together in secret all the time, talking about how there's too many people. We're moving towards automation, which I address in another video, basically, that I've just recently done. You should check that out, too. It's called Singularity, basically, or Technological Singularity. Now, it's one of my better videos. It's got 30 views, so it's just like, I don't know how you guys haven't fucking watched that, because it's obviously so important in regards to what's going to be happening over the course of the next 35 years, but maybe you'll watch it 35 years from now when it's too fucking late. But cool, whatever. But so here we have, a manipulated drought, which is going to cause a widespread panic. The panic isn't quite here yet because our faucets are still turning on and shit like that. But within the next year, unless it decides to rain sometimes between now and October, most people may actually run the risk of completely running out of fucking water. No more shower for you, no potable drinking water, nothing like that. It's going to create a crisis. They'll either swoop in as the saviors of the United States, saviors of California, and find some way to initiate some fucking water restrictions that'll basically take every home farmer's ability to farm away. You'll no longer be allowed to grow your own crops, which is the agenda of Monsanto anyway. You know what I mean? And for all you organic farmers out there, I feel so bad for you too. The idea that there is, everyone's like clamoring towards, oh, we need to eat organic, man. We need organic food, dude. It's like there is no fucking organic food anymore, okay? They're dumping chemicals on all the fucking water all the soil, okay? And I'm going to get into it with you what these chemicals are. But like I say, they're either going to let us fucking die, let us starve for a really long time, which is going to lead to plagues. It's going to lead to fucking it's probably going to lead to a rise in mosquitoes or some weird vermin like that that's going to cause disease, and everyone's going to get fucking sick. And that'll kill off a bunch of people, which they really like. And then, or like I say, they're just going to impose some draconian fucking laws that'll further erode our, property rights, further erode our ability to fucking use national parks, access national parks, go fishing, do any of this kind of stuff, okay? But one of those two things are coming. Let me show you this article I found here. I got this article here. I guess I can turn off this NASA video. It's just going to slow me down if I leave it up. Now, there's plenty of different websites you can go to get information about this, and there's plenty of good documentaries out there. One of them is by a man named Clifford Carnicom, and it's called Aerosol Crimes, and that's probably my favorite one of the best ones for a person just discovering this information to check out, because I'm not super scientific about this. I know about some of the heavy metals and toxins that are in here, but he really lays this documentary out in such a way to where there shouldn't even be a shadow of a doubt in your mind that chemtrails exist. Even after I show you the NASA video, if you're skeptical, you watch that, you'll be a believer fucking instantly. Let me read you this. The U.S. military has been spraying chemical and biological weapons and open-air testing over civilian populations since the 1940s. They are called vulnerability tests. This is not a controversial statement. The military has admitted to this practice on many occasions, and there's plenty of documentation from the government to corroborate it. There is also documentation of intentional experimental releases of radiation on civilian populations. Unfortunately, this information tends to surface long after it could have saved lives or eased the suffering of victims. This statement was made by Carol Palat, one or the other. But you can look it up. You can go check out this article yourself, and many others that are out there for people who actually want to educate themselves. But let me read you some of this. Over the past decade, independent testing of chemtrails around the country has shown a dangerous, extremely poisonous brew that includes barium, nano-aluminum-coated fiberglass known as chaff, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungal mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, and polymer fibers. But it doesn't stop there. Here we have fucking NASA admitting to spraying lithium as well. And there are other things that are being sprayed all the time and dispersed in the upper atmosphere. Oh, which leads me to another theory about what's going on with the chemtrails, is they're actually toxic waste. And since there's such now that we've initiated some of these, some of this kind of legislation that protects the environment from people trying to dump their toxic shit in it, there's a theory that people dump these toxic chemicals at high atmosphere, so it wafts out. So a little bit of it, instead of all of it being dumped in one area, creating devastation in that area, they can disperse it out, and then the human body can basically take it in and basically destroy these that way. Like it's a method to get rid of and disperse toxic chemicals that they have no other way of doing. So since they're not allowed to just fucking dump it in the ocean anymore, unlike fluoride, which they're allowed to put in our water, right? Or chlorine. Let me see here. Barium can be compared to the toxicity of arsenic. Barium is known to adversely affect the heart. Aluminum has a history of damaging brain function. Now, those are going to be the two hallmarks of what you find. Like if you're at your house, you live in a place where you're seeing a lot of chemtrail activity, the one way to prove to yourself that this is occurring and that's exactly what you're seeing is either A, take a water sample, or B, take a soil sample. And what you're going to find very high levels of, most likely, is going to be aluminum and barium. Okay, and the barium's a salt. And it's basically it's been speculated it's actually the barium that sucks the moisture out of the atmosphere, and that's probably the active ingredient that keeps moisture from touching down. So as Mother Nature's trying to dump some rain down on us in June, we'll just fucking put that barium out there, okay? But as you can see right here, works with the toxicity similar to arsenic. The aluminum is very devastating. I mean, I know a lot of people use aluminum foil. However, you don't eat aluminum foil. You aren't breathing in nanoparticulate aluminum all the time. Aluminum has now been proven time and time again to have catastrophic effects on the brain, basically. It has been directly linked to the vast increase of Alzheimer's disease and other mentally degenerative diseases that are out there. Independent researchers and labs continue to show off-scale levels of these poisons. A few anonymous officials have acknowledged the ongoing aerosol spraying. Numerous tests have been done to verify that these poisons are off the scale in their toxicity. They're documented in our water, in our soil, and in our air. For more than 10 years, researcher Clifford Carnicom, the man I was speaking about earlier, has been valiantly and systematically reporting on the various detrimental aspects of these aerosols and what they're doing to our entire environment as well as our blood. Various Skywatch groups also have been carefully documenting and diligently reporting about these daily assaults. And kudos to you guys out there who are doing that, who are being scoffed at and laughed at as you're out there trying to, enlighten people and show them, the people who look but don't see. Kudos to you guys, man. I'm proud of you guys. You're not alone. With these poisons surrounding our every breath, it's not surprising to see a dramatic increase in illness. There are numerous reports of an increase in cardiac deaths and upper respiratory illnesses, asthma, chronic bronchitis, lung cancer, and often multiple chronic illnesses. Chemtrails toxicity has already drastically affected our deteriorating collective health and our compromised immune systems, probably from the other soft kill weapons that have been used. The significant increase in heart disease and various upper respiratory illnesses has been linked to a vast increase in particulate matter in our air. This can be seen by some revealing statistics. 1. Coronary heart disease is now the leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Center of Disease Control. In 2006, 631,636 people died of heart disease. This means 1 out of every 5 Americans are affected. In Canada, every 7 minutes, someone dies of heart disease. 2. Asthma and upper respiratory illnesses. Between 100 and 150 million people suffer from asthma worldwide. In the U.S., 16.4 million adults have asthma and 7 million children have it. Chronic bronchitis and emphysema. 9.8 million Americans were diagnosed with chronic bronchitis this past year. For emphysema, the figure is 3.8 million. Total, 37 million Americans affected just from this one program. In Canada, 2.4 million have been diagnosed with asthma. And it goes on and on here. I'm not going to sit here and just fucking read you an article you can read yourself and shit. But here we are talking about, brain injury. Even with the increase of preventable illnesses, the issue that has not been linked or addressed with the Clifford Carnicom rightly calls aerosol crimes is the deterioration of cognitive function. Our immune system is already under siege daily, and this has resulted in millions, possibly billions of people with not just one illness, but often multiple ones. The skin, the largest organ in our body, is a permeable membrane. This means that the invisible toxins in our air, including chemtrails and other highly dangerous chemicals, go right into our skin. One thing that people don't realize, like I'm here in Clear Lake, the water is so fucking shitty. It's not only poisoned with mercury because, basically the lake at some point here in Clear Lake, California, had basically invaded into a quicksilver mine, and now quicksilver, or better known as mercury, basically can be found and completely contaminated the fucking lake that's out there. But that's not where it ends. In order to remedy it, they're using chlorine, basically. And I know people use, I use chlorine for my pool. Chlorine's cool. It kills germs, man. This is good. It's good. But do you drink your fucking pool water? Hey. Probably not. Here is the other thing about chlorine. When chlorine and many of the other chemicals like fluoride or whatever else is in your fucking water or heated in your shower and go into vapor form, you're breathing in the vapors from that. These chemicals take on different properties and your body reacts to them differently depending on temperature. So that's another thing to be thinking about as well. And as you can see here, the body actually absorbs all of these toxins. And over the course of time, you're just going to get sicker and sicker. This is why this is soft kill. Soft kill, once again, like I say in my other soft kill videos, means it's going to kill you slowly. What will happen is it's going to basically gradually reduce, it's going to reduce the age limit of elders. Basically, it's going to lower their life expectancy, and it's going to raise the mortality rate of infants and young children. Okay, it's population control. That is what we're seeing here. It's no accident. And gradually, as time goes by, these things will get worse. It's the frog in the boiling pot theory, like I say in many of my videos, where everything's happening so slow. It's just getting a little warmer all the time, you know what I mean? You don't really notice it, and by the time you realize that something's wrong, it's too late to escape. But, do a little bit of research on this. It's all over the place. If you're like me and you're more of a visual learner, you might want to watch YouTube videos about it. Like I say, I'd watched the aerosol crimes video. I thought it was called Aerosol Agenda, but I guess it's called Aerosol Crimes, but it's by Clifford Carnicom. I'll try to post a link of it on this video as well so you guys can check it out. When I watched this, it was just, that was it for me. However, there's a couple lectures from people out there. There's a guy out of Shasta, I believe, here in California, who really breaks down the whole geoengineering thing in regards to the aerosol spraying or chemtrails or whatever you call it. And once you see that evidence as well, I'm 100%, it'll make a believer out of you if you're not a believer already. But like I say, so here we go. We have a soft kill weapons that's, being dispersed, causes brain injury. What else causes brain injury? Fluoride. What else causes brain injury? Mercury, right? It's almost like they're trying to shut our brains down. They want us to be as dumb as humanly fucking possible and not to pay attention to any of these things. The reason why most of you out there, if you're a skeptic of UFOs, you don't believe UFOs exist or extraterrestrials exist, don't believe the government's testing extraterrestrial vehicles or any of these other things that are going on, the reason why is because you've never tried, okay? The way I was able to start spotting, I've seen many UFO sightings, many of which I feel like were classified government tests on, new technology that's out there. Generally, it happens late at night and at high atmosphere, and you've got to have pretty good eyes to see it. If you're as blind as a bat jack, you may have issues, but I've seen a couple sightings that were actual UFOs that I do believe were extraterrestrial as well. And I have witnesses who can attest to that fact. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is show my friends the fucking, what I call silver bugs. They're not silver bugs. They're probably called something else. I call them silver bugs because one of the first, UFO-like vehicles that we had made when with Operation Paperclip, when we stole the Nazi technology, basically, when we took those scientists in, the first floating one was called a silver bug. And so when I see high-flying, high-altitude, UFOs in the sky, they almost look like stars up there. You have to have a discerning eye, but you'll see them flying in groups. A lot of people say, oh, that's a satellite. It's like, it's not a fucking satellite. Satellites don't go zip, zip, zip. Like I've seen these things do. Some of my favorite things to do for my friends who said they'd never have a sighting is I just go outside with them and I'll show them those. And you start, as you go by, it becomes easier and easier to spot these things, actually. But most of your problem is you look and don't see. I don't want to make an attack on you. I was the same fucking way, you know what I mean? Although I've always been a believer in spiritual stuff. I've always been a believer in extraterrestrials. I had an encounter when I was a young child. A couple of my friends have had encounters. I got a friend. Actually, I got multiple friends who feel like they've been abducted, have abduction stories. There's no doubt in my mind that that shit's going on. But I know that's probably too crazy for you guys right now, so we'll save that for another video, you know what I mean, for a different audience. But either way, reality is stranger than fiction, guys. I love you guys. And I'm just trying to help wake people up, not for my own notoriety, you know. Yeah, I'd like, you know, I know a lot of people want to pat themselves on the back, you know, when they do a good deed, because they feel like someone's looking, you know, but, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. And, you know, it just makes me happy knowing if I could even help one person or wake one person up, you know, one way or another. And I know that most of you who watch this are probably already on the same boat as me, but for those of you who have actually gotten through this and are still skeptical, you know, I'd like you to prove me wrong. I'd like you to actually do research, though. I don't want you to run just with a news article from one of the paid-off news media outlets that are totally shilled out, that don't even cover, you know, fucking Bilderberg or anything, that, you know, swore secrecy and all this shit. I'd really like you to do your own research. Why don't you do some soil samples, do some water samples. Tell me if you find aluminum, barium in there. Stuff that doesn't naturally occur just right there in your regular soil. And, you know, what you'll find out is it changes the pH of the soil. As this happens, it makes all crops harder to grow. It's not even just about the water anymore, the lack of water. I mean, the literal acidity of the soil, when the pH is off, basically makes it almost impossible to grow, you know, strong and meaningful crop yields, you know what I mean? Which is, for an organic farmer, also going to be another point of real frustration and contention for you guys. And, you know, and Monsanto basically is going to swoop in with their solution, right? You know, they're going to have their genetically modified foods that can withstand, you know, higher low pH soil and da-da-da-da-do. We all know Monsanto is just fucking, it's the beast. That's going to be a whole nother soft kill video in and of itself, and I won't get into that. But I do like to end stuff on a high note because I love you guys. I'm trying to spread a message of love and understanding, tolerance, and all these other things, even though I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But there are chemicals out here that you can use for detoxification of some of these chemicals that you're being bombarded with and some of these heavy metals and stuff. You know, here's one you can check out right here. It talks about a doctor who's been trying to wake people up about chemtrails and has come up with a compound that can be used in order to help detoxify the body from these. I suppose you could go to, you know, Alex Jones's channel and buy from his line of nutraceuticals if you actually believe he's not a CIA agent putting your name on a fucking watch list or whatever. You know, there's times where I really hate him. You know, I really feel like he's a shill, guys. I think all the research is there. He's actually, I made videos about how he's been getting worse and worse lately, although he does get some good guests on there. And he does release a lot of good information about how to detoxify the body. A lot of these remedies that he talks about actually are decent and actually do work as he says they do. But you have to remember that this isn't, you know, it's more about him selling his line of nutraceuticals than it is for your health. It's not like someone like a regular person like me out there trying to inform you with no political gain, no monetary gain for myself. You know what I mean? So I'd urge you to probably get it anywhere but the InfoWars store, but that's on you. If that's where you want to get it, you know, peace to you guys. You know, you'll figure that stuff out on your own too. Sorry if I offended anyone and was rude to anybody, but like I say, when I go on, you know, Yahoo or Google or whatever, and it says chemtrails been debunked, some, you know, ridiculous ideas and blah blah blah, blathering of idiot conspiracy theories. I mean, like, this is the mainstream articles and shit like that. You know, when you hear it out of someone, you know, like the scientist in NASA's mouth, when you hear it from military officials, when you hear it from Al Gore, like I say, guys, start looking for patterns, you know? That's what I've always been good at, is patterns, you know? And I want to spread a pattern and love to you guys. Either way, I love you. Peace.